Matt Cerrone of MetsBlog.com is here. Given the chaos this week, you must have a little carpal tunnel going on right now, Matty. Tell me about Santana. 15 starts. How do the bloggers feel about his work so far with the Mets?
Well, in the preseason, I put up a poll asking fans what their expectations were for him going into the year. And they basically said they thought, he would win 20, 25, or they thought the Mets would win 20 or 25 times every time he stepped on the mound. And he's actually on pace to win 20 or so. So he's really in line with what expectations were. I asked fans today, give him a letter grade, sort of like a mid-season progress report. And they gave him basically, as you can see, sort of a B+, which I think is fair. As you mentioned, his stats are probably not in line with what he has done on the mound. I think the bullpen has blown a few of his starts. Probably could be a lot better than he's shown. So I think B+ is pretty fair.
What's the reaction, the initial reaction anyway, to Jerry Manuel, Matt?
Initially, there was a lot of negativity. And I think a lot of that stems from him not being really a drastic enough change. I got a lot of emails, people saying, Bobby Valentine, Wally Backman would be a better choice. And I think they were looking for really a 180-degree turn, But I think once they saw Manuel speak, he went through the press conference, I think he really brought out a lot more confidence. I got an email, actually, from a fan that I think sort of summed it all up. She said, before the press conference, I wasn't happy, but after listening to him, I'm truly excited to see if he can turn this thing around. He's a breath of fresh air, and I think that really speaks to what fans are feeling. He's a little different. He's somewhat entertaining. I think he's invokes a little positivity, and more than anything, I think he's bringing this sort of a breath of fresh air, like she said, and I think people are excited about that. It's been a long year and a half, really. We've been listening to a lot of the same rhetoric, a lot of the same stuff, and I think getting somebody at the helm that can sort of bring the fans into the fold and get everybody excited again, I think is a good thing, and I think people are somewhat excited.
All right, Matt Cerrone, MetsBlog.com. Keep blogging.